Hey guys, welcome to Ham Radio with K0PIR and my YouTube channel. I've got a video coming up on JTDX, and JTDX is similar to WSJTX. If you get the evaluation version of JTDX, it'll have FT8. So this video is on the Icom 7610, JTDX, and JTAlert. I'll show you how I operate it, and I'll have some of the settings and screen captures on my website. Hey, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button below. And if you want to be notified when I put out a new video, ring that bell. Okay, well, if you visit my website, I'll have an article up pretty soon on Radio Deluxe with JTDX and JTAlert. Right now, I'm going to show you how I got it set up. I'm using Radio Deluxe with the Icom 7610, and the rig control, when I bring up Radio Deluxe, is going to go to my USB cable. That's a USB cable with a Type A connector and a Type B connector. This isn't a CIV cable. So I'm going to go ahead and start it and then Radio Deluxe Logbook. And once that's up and running, my logbook is going to open up on the other screen. But there you go. Once that's up and running, I can take a look at my settings here, and everything looks good. I've got noise blanker, noise reduction turned off. My AGC is on fast, and I'm at 3.6K in bandwidth. And that's what I like. That's filter 1. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. The next thing I want to start is JTDX. And when it comes up, I've got this connected with my CIV cable. I have an article on my website running WSJTX with a CIV cable. And I'm using the radio for rig control. I'll show you that in just a minute. But this is using the CIV cable, and if I go ahead and select the frequency from the drop down list, you'll see the S shows up for split. So let me reduce this, and I'm going to minimize this, and now I'm going to start up JTAlert, JTDX, JTAlert. When you install JTAlert, you'll get a bunch of different icons for different programs, and this is the one that I've been using. It's the no auto starts, and it's JTDX, JTAlert. So I'm going to double click and start that up, and you'll see it opens. And I've been using the text messaging, because some guys text message me. I'm going to bring up JTDX again. And that's usually the way I have it set up on my screen. And the first thing we can look at is the JTDX wide graph. And this comes from the article or the manual for JTDX, and I'll put a link in my website, the article on my website. I'll put a link below here if I can. But I use the settings that were in that instruction manual, or a quick start guide, I forget which it's called. But these are my settings. And again, I'll have this screen capture on my website, and I think the wide graph looks really good. I'm on 40 meters. It's 8:30 a.m. in the morning. The next thing we can take a look at is the JTDX and the settings. I'll go to File and Settings, and again, all these screen captures are on my website. The General tab, very similar to WSJTX. The Radio tab, I'm using the Icom 7610 for the rig, and this serial port, that's my CIV cable. And the baud rate, the maximum baud rate for the CIV is 19.2, and you'll have to have unlinked from remote set up, on your Icom radios. Icom 7610, Icom 7300. If you're using a different radio, you may have this set up differently. But for the 7610, 7300, very similar. I am using the rig for split operation, and with the 7300 I usually use Fake It. I just think it works better on the 7300. Either one is fine. Let's take a look at the audio tab. The input and the output, that's the USB audio codec for the 7610. Let's take a look at the sequencing. I really like this about JTDX. I think that this is a great feature, and it will send 3 times. I can change this. I can make it 2 or 1 or 4 or 5, but this is the default setting, and I like this. This is a really good feature. Then on the reporting tab, I've got the UDP server. I've got it set up, and I think all the rest of this, I'm prompting myself to log the QSO. But I think the rest of that is just the default, and the rest of these tabs, that's all the default I've been using. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and another place we can take a look at is in that manual for JTDX. This is a little bit different than WSJTX. I think it's a little bit more involved, but I've been operating it for a few weeks, and it's getting easier and easier to operate. You have some buttons here, and it's explained in the instructions. The buttons down here, they're explained in the instructions also, but this is the way that I have mine set up. I've got my transmit and receive locked, and I like this feature. I like this. It just looks, feels more comfortable to me than hold the transmit frequency as in WSJTX. And I like the way that it operates. I like the way that the transmit and receive indicators up here, I like how they operate. They're just, it seems to be a little bit different. The auto sequencing that I'm using is auto sequencing 2, and you can go up and take a look at it from up here. Auto sequencing and call decoded till start of transmit interval, and I think that's the default, and I'm going to answer the work before calls. Another important part of this is the power slider, and I have this set so my ALC on the 7610 is about 1/4 of the ALC scale. I have another article on my website that shows you how I set the output power on my Icom radios, and it's a little bit different than what some other people do, but I like the way that I'm doing it now, and I'm going to stick with it. Basically what I'm using is the multi-knob on the front of the radio, or I'm using the power slider in HRD rig control to change the output level, the RF power output. And then I use this power slider. This pretty much adjusts my ALC. But once I set that, I can leave it. And then down here, this is very similar to WSJTX. Now my receive level is pretty high right now, and it's high because I was using that for something else. And you'll see that when I change this, I'm going to go to the recording tab in the sound settings, and this is the USB audio codec. I'm going to change the level and knock it down to about a 10, and you'll see it drop down between 30 and 50. You'll also hear that the audio went down in my video for the receive signals. Might have lost it just about completely. There, I'll turn it up a little bit in my video recording software. So I can click OK and OK. So between 30 and 50, that's good. I think the rest is pretty much the same as WSJTX. And boy, this is really slick software. It works really well. I'm going to click on Hawaii and see if I can get him. And right now I'm putting out 45 watts. Try him again. This is my second call. And I am calling him on his transmit frequency. I could have found an open spot up here and worked split and then called him off of his transmit frequency. But I just happen to have that button selected. So he went back to somebody else and I stopped transmitting. The enabled transmit went out, so I'll have to look for somebody else to call. And I am going to find a free spot over here. I'm going to unlock that and let's see who comes up. K0XB in Minnesota. Let's see what happens. And you can see up here that he is way over here. I'm transmitting down here. Okay, there you go. And it's auto sequencing. So I don't have to really do anything else. It'll prompt me to log him. I don't have Roger, Roger, Roger checked off. When I was calling CQ, it adds that extra transmission in there, and it's not really needed. It's nice, but it's not really needed. I sent his signal report. He sent me a Roger, Roger 73, so he has that unchecked. If he's using JTDX, he has that unchecked. He's not sending a Roger, Roger, Roger. So I'm just going to go up here and change my transmit power, and then when I click OK, it will log into HRD Logbook, and there it goes. Let me bring it up, and there he is. Got the name in there. And you'll also see in JTAlert, let me show you the settings in here. In JTAlert, I've got that shown. I had that shown where his name in QTH showed up. Okay, KC9ZS. I just double clicked on him, and you'll see he shows up over here. I'll go into the settings in just a second. What happened to him? Okay, the Roger, Roger 73. Okay, and I didn't get my prompt to log. So if you don't get the prompt to log, what you can do is just go ahead and log it yourself. So I'm going to go to log QSO, and that may have just been hiding behind JTAlert. So 45 watts, I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And my transmissions have stopped. Logged in HRD Logbook. And there it is. Okay, back to JTAlert. Go to Settings and Manage Settings. There's just a few things that I set up in here. You can go through JTAlert, and there's a lot of settings in here, but most of it I'll just leave the default. But on my logging, I'll show you it's logged into HRD Logbook, and I'm using a Maria database. Yours may look different than this. You could be using AC log. I use that. I use DX Keeper. Could be using that. Let's take a look at the web services. And then online XML callbook. I'm using QRZ. You can use ham QTH if you want. And when this is set, it will bring up the name in QTH in here, and then it also puts it in to HRD Logbook. Okay, so that's it for JTAlert, JTDX, and HRD Logbook with the Icom 7610. I hope you find this informative and useful. I'll have an article on my website and it'll detail more information. I'll also have some screen captures. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Also tell your friends. 73 and good DX.